Welcome back, second graders. It's Mrs. Posh again, and we are on lesson 6-3. Today we are going to compare and order three-digit numbers, and we are going to explain how we know when a number is greater or less than another number. So if I look at two three-digit numbers, being able to tell if one number is greater than or less than another number. So as you can see, I have two three-digit numbers. I have 358, and I'm comparing that to 729. I need to remember that I have the less than symbol that looks like this. I have the greater than symbol that looks like this. And of course, we have our equals to. Most of you remember the alligator likes to eat the bigger number, so we can compare the two numbers and we can think which one is greater and have our symbol look like that alligator's mouth is going to eat the bigger number. So let's start by looking at 358 and comparing that to 729. When I start, I always want to start in my hundreds place because we know that hundreds are bigger than tens and ones. So I know in the number 358, I have 3 hundredths. In the number 729, I have 7 hundredths. I know that 3 is smaller than 7. It's less than 7. So I know that 358 is smaller than 729. I don't even need to worry about those tens or those ones because right away, just by looking at the hundreds, I know that 300 is less than 700. So I know that my answer is 358 is less than 729. So now I have to write that less than symbol in the circle. When I do that, a nice trick that we have is that we can take and give me a second here, get my color. I know that I have 358 is smaller, so I'm going to put one dot next to 358. I know 729 is greater, so 2 is greater than 1, so I'm going to put 2 dots next to that 729 side. And now when I create my less than symbol, all I have to do is connect the lines from one side to the other and I get the right symbol. So when I read this, I know 358 is less than 729. I have to compare 527 to 527. I always start in that hundreds place and I see that the two fives are the same. So I can't tell which one is greater than or less than. I look at the tens place next because tens are bigger than ones, and I have 2 in the tens place in each of them. So I still can't tell which one is greater than or less than the other. Go to my ones place and I notice that those are the same as well. So it looks like the two numbers are equal. So since they both are the same, I'm going to put the lines, 2 lines by both of them because they're both the biggest number. And I'm going to connect those 2 lines going across and I make the equal sign. So 527 is equal to 527. I have to compare 820 this time to 518. Again, I start in the hundreds place. This time I see this one has 8 hundredths and this one has 5 hundredths. I know that 8 is greater than 5, so 820 is greater than 518. So when I make my symbol, I'm going to put the 2 lines over here and the 1 over on the other side. And now I'm going to connect those lines the best I can with my mouse. And now I can read it going across. 820 is greater than 518. If you remember that alligator, here's his wide open mouth trying to eat that bigger number. So 820 is greater than 518. This time I have 327. I'm comparing it to 372. Start in the hundreds place. I have 3 hundredths and 3 hundredths. No idea yet which one is less than or greater than. Go to my tens place. I have 2 tens and 7 tens. I know 2 tens is less than 7 tens, so now I know that 327 is less than 372. So to write that less than symbol, I'm going to put 1 dot over here and 2 dots next to the number that's greater, and I'm going to connect those together. And now I see I have 327 is greater than 372. So looking at the number in the tens place this time, because the hundreds are the same. This time we have to write the numbers in order from least to greatest. This arrow helps me remember that I'm going from my smallest number to my biggest number. So from least to greatest. I always look at the hundreds place first because hundreds are worth more than tens and ones. This one I have 2 hundredths, this one I have 5, and this one I have 1. I know that 1 is smaller than 2 and 5, so 142 has to go first. So I'm going to write 142 on that first line. So then I have to compare my next two, and I see 2 hundredths and 5 hundredths. I know that 2 is smaller than 5, so 278 comes next. And that means that 5 hundredths is more than 1 or 2, so the 528 is going to be my greatest number. So I'm going to look back and just make sure it's correct. So 142 is the least, then 278 is more than that, and my greatest number is 528. It's greater than 278. So I should have them in order from least to greatest. Write these numbers in order from least to greatest. So again, starting with our smallest number, working our way up to our biggest number, least to greatest. We start in the hundreds place. 739 has 7 hundredths, 391 has 3 hundredths, and 826 has 8 hundredths. I know that 3 is smaller than 7 and 8, so 391 is going to go on that first line. So 391. Then I have to look at the other two, 739 and 826. I see that 7 is smaller than 8, so I know 739 is going to come next. So let's write 739 on the next line. This is Posha's trying out a different mouse today, and it's not going the greatest. All right, not too bad though. All right, so then our greatest number should be the 826, because we know that 8 is greater than 3 and 8 is greater than 7. So 826. So this time we have to write the numbers in order from greatest to least. So this time starting with our greatest number and working our way to the least. So greatest to least. So I'm starting down here looking at the hundreds again. I have 4 hundredths, 7 hundredths, and 6 hundredths. This time I want the greatest. I'm looking for which one is the biggest, and I see that 7 is bigger than 6 and 7 is bigger than 4. So 718 is going to go on that first line because 718 is the greatest. All right, then I go back down and I look at the other two. I have 4 hundredths and I have 6 hundredths. So again, which one is bigger? I'm working my way down to the smallest one, so I want the biggest one of these two to come next. So I see 6 is greater than 4, so 637 is going in the middle. And that means that 718 should, oh, sorry, 400. Remember, least, not greatest. So 452 should be the least. So greatest, 718, then 637, then 452 being the least. So again, we have to write the numbers in order from greatest to least. So this time starting with our biggest number, working our way down to our smallest number. Look at the hundreds, 200, 400s, and 200s. Uh-oh. I can tell right away which is the greatest, but I see I have two of them this time with the same number of hundreds. 400 though is greater than 200, so I know 401 has to be first. So the greatest is going to be 401. Now it gets a little bit tricky because I have 200 and 200, so now I have to go to my tens place. So 227 has two tens. Oh, 221 also has two tens. So I still can't tell after looking at the hundreds or the tens. So I have to go all the way to the ones place. I have 7 ones and I have 1 1. I'm working from greatest to least, so I want the one that is greatest to come next. So I know 7 is greater than 1. So I know 227 is going to have to come next. So 227 goes on the middle line. And that means our smallest number then is 221. Since 1 is smaller than 7, 221 is the least. So on your worksheet today, page 333, you are going to use the less than, greater than, or equal sign to compare the two numbers from number 1 through 10 there, comparing those two 3-digit numbers. Then on number 11, 12, 13, and 14 at the bottom, you are going to take those 3-digit numbers and put them in order from least to greatest. So on these last 4, it's from least to greatest. On the back side of the worksheet, you're going to compare and order numbers again. At the top, again, you're using the less than, greater than, or equal to sign to compare two numbers. Down on 21 and 22, you're going to write the numbers, but this time from greatest to least. So really watch when you're putting those numbers on the line. What does it say underneath? This one has greatest first, so we know we have to start with our biggest number and work our way down to the least, which is our smallest number. Same with this one. Number 23 is a little more challenging because you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 3-digit numbers to compare. Remember, you're starting with your greatest and working your way down to the least. Always, always, always start with your hundreds. Look at the hundreds and find which one is the greatest and start with that one. If the hundreds are the same, take the two that have the hundreds the same and compare the tens next to see which one is going to come first. Down at the very bottom, 24, 25, 26, and 27, you are just practicing adding 2-digit numbers and subtracting 2-digit numbers. Watch those symbols. First 2 are adding, and those last 2 there are subtracting. Down at the bottom, check for understanding. Says explain how to compare 728 and 723. If you have Seesaw, go ahead and explain it on Seesaw. If you're not using Seesaw, and that's okay if you are not, just go ahead and explain to mom or dad how you would compare those two numbers. So remember to use your mathematical terms. So remember to talk about the hundreds place, the tens place, the ones place. How do you know if those, how to compare those two numbers? Which one is the greater number? Which one is less? All right, so pages 333 and 334 334 in your workbook today. Check on the Some More page to see which homework and remembering pages to do today, and also to check in on Think Central. Have a great day. Can't wait to be with you again tomorrow.